Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show again. And on the first graphic here, webcam shot of Nome here. Snow falling just about nonstop here for the last day. Picked up anywhere 4 to 6 inches of snow and continues to snow at this time, 3 p.m. in the afternoon on Sunday here at Nome. Not too bad though, winds not really all that strong. See, looks like a couple of groups here kind of squaring off there next to the building. And snow will continue to taper off, turn to flurries this evening and end probably by midnight, definitely after. And then tomorrow will be a much drier day. Then the next batch of moisture comes in late tomorrow night and Tuesday. Otherwise, hazardous weather, nothing over southern Alaska. No watches, warnings, advisories, panhandle as well. But up to the north, winter weather advisories out tonight for the eastern north slope. Gusty winds and blowing snow with maybe some light additional snowfall. That's going to reduce visibility to a half mile or less at times. And that exists back along all the Arctic coast. Actually, this area here remains out until noon Monday. And just overnight tonight here for the western and central Arctic coast, blizzard warning out until noon Monday for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast here for winds, gusty winds coming back up. They're much lighter today than they were yesterday. Expect to come back up and look for blizzard conditions once again, mostly over to Barter Island, Kaktovik with winter weather advisory type conditions, better conditions toward Prudhoe Bay, Dead Horse, and New Wixit. Otherwise, the strong winds you had yesterday, those have shifted over to just south of Banks Island. Coppermine seeing gusts 55 miles an hour. Perry Island gusts 65 miles an hour. And then you're in something of a break today. Another system coming across, kicking the winds back up to 45 miles an hour this afternoon, gusts at Cape Lisburne, along with snow. And then kind of warmer air coming up as well, creating a mixture of precipitation up over the Seward Peninsula area. But otherwise, here, as far as watches, warnings, advisories, nothing out for the Aleutians as well as the Bering Sea. And now, satellite imagery showing the moisture here. Actually, a system cutting off, not all that strong, but bringing gusts to 40, 45 miles an hour, Alaska Peninsula, mainly around the Cold Bay area there. And some showers here for the eastern Aleutians. Light precipitation possibly around the Pribilofs, nothing heavy at all. You can see a pretty weak system, especially by comparison to the strong high pressure area holding over the Gulf of Alaska. This moisture coming northward and then streaming in bands eastward here into the interior with light snow extending along the Yukon River Valley there. But just some clouds around the Fort Yukon Flats area. In fact, Chok-Yitzhak up above freezing this afternoon. And Nome, again, about 30 degrees, 28, 30 degrees, light snow. Other side of the peninsula, Buckland, 34 degrees and light rain. And then back into the snow there at Kotzebue. And anywhere from an inch of snow today in the last 12 hours fell at Huslia. Kotzebue picked up a couple inches. Nome had about 3 inches, snowiest area there. And just fog with a little bit of a breeze blowing St. Lawrence Island this afternoon. And out to the west, you got a break here over the Bering Sea, and then another slug of moisture. See a pretty impressive looking cloud shield with the next system, but the main push of that is up to the Russian Far East. But you can see it is have an eastward progression as a whole pattern trying to shift eastward, really getting held up by the strong high we've got over the area. Now continue into tomorrow, and then this system will slide to the northeast, but definitely there'll be at least a short-term change coming in with definitely milder temperatures. You already have the warm air aloft, and surface temperatures responding, even in the clear areas, to that, rising into the upper 30s to lower 40s, Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island today. And sunshine, light winds over the panhandle for the most part, but Skagway seeing gusts 35 miles an hour out of the north, and Haines seeing gusts 30 miles an hour. Otherwise, winds pretty light down that way. On the chart, here's that front coming across, and again, more snow-blowing snow, western Arctic coast, better conditions with a high here over the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline, and basically no gradient here across southern Alaska. Light winds, sunshine here, southern Alaska again. Copper River Basin, right into the North Gulf Coast. Kodiak, dry, sunshine for the panhandle. And then you get into the thick cirrus here as you get up toward the Alaska range and back to the west. Nikolai had picked up anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of snow in the last 12 hours or 24 hours. Just some scattered snow showers this afternoon. And that weak system here, just really I just drew it in as a trough. The low center already dissipating, but that brought some light rain to the Alaska Peninsula, showers of eastern Aleutians. And the forecast for tonight, high pressure holds here. Southern Alaska falling slowly, but still pretty respectable, 1,033 millibars. One in the Gulf here kind of slipping southward and weakening. The other high all the way down southern British Columbia there as this trough pushes eastward. So snow and blowing snow, again, the blizzard warning eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and winter weather advisory for the eastern North Slope and eastern Arctic coast as well through tonight and into tomorrow. It ends here back on the east-west side late tonight and early tomorrow. Just some snow showers now from the Seward Peninsula, again, probably ending around Nome after midnight and taking a little longer, but this will all be quite light here along that trough, kind of ridging behind that into St. Lawrence Island, northern Bering Sea. And here's that trough slipping on up. Showers possibly into Kuskokwim Bay if rain or snow stays dry for the Pribilofs. Not bad central Aleutians, light winds, and this next front kicks the winds up over the western Aleutians. You can see the main push on up into the Russian Far East. And taking a look at tomorrow, that front does kick eastward here, but really beginning to weaken here. Just a weak trailing edge, trying to push in toward Adak with a little bit of moisture. And all the winds off to the northwest Bering and into Russia. Still some leftover moisture here along and off the southwest coast. Could get a few isolated showers possibly early in the day around the Pribilofs. High pressure, sunshine again, southern Alaska. Possible showers here in the northern Bristol Bay. Won't amount to much at all. Right along the coastline, best chance as you head over toward Cape Newenham. But moisture does increase here with this high shifting low to the east in the northeast Pacific. Southerly flow brings an increasing chance of rain, light rain or showers, southern Kodiak Island. Better chance here along the Alaska Peninsula. Another sunny day on the Panhandle. Clouds increasing here, eastern North Gulf Coast, across Gulf of Alaska, maybe the northern Panhandle. But again, like yesterday, it looks like any showers that develop tomorrow will, or the forecast same as what was out yesterday, will stay off the coast. And then for Tuesday, upper level trough, colder air, and snow comes back into the west and southwest interior, more showery and scattered in nature back up to the northwest there. This low, weak low brings wilder temperatures, clouds, chance of moisture in the form of rain along the coastal areas here. Rain changes showers for Kodiak Island, chance of mixed precipitation, Cook Inlet, Manauskas-Susitna Valley, possibly, and stays dry for the Copper River Basin with sunshine in the upper Tanana Valley there, stays dry on the eastern North Slope and Arctic coast. Still a little breezy there, but that's an offshore flow, so VFR flying there. Another VFR light wind, maximum sunshine day coming up for the Panhandle. Lows tonight down that way in the 20s to lower 30s, and 10 to 15 or 5 to 15 south central Alaska tonight. So continuing to edge upward each night. 30 Kodiak Island, 30s lower 40s Alaska Peninsula, and you can see above zero all the way to the Arctic coast, although maybe down around zero for Arctic Village. Highs tomorrow, teens to mid 20s Alaska Range northward. Mid-40s, Bristol Bay, 45, Alaska Peninsula there at Port Hayden, lower 40s Kodiak, 30, 35 southern Alaska. In the 40s, lower to mid for the Panhandle, followed by lows in the upper 20s mid 30s. Single numbers maybe shade below zero over the eastern interior to eastern Arctic coast. and mid-30s Bristol Bay, otherwise 20s and teens to lower 20s south central Alaska.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving into flying weather, we've got mostly IFR here, right into the southwest coast, northern Bristol Bay, south side of the Alaska Peninsula, and from, we'll say Falls Pass all the way out to possibly Adak, a break, and then some more IFR. And areas of marginal VFR with some scattered IFR and scattered VFR here over the northern part of the state. Staying VFR here, Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, Madawaska-Susitna Valley, and into the along the Yukon and Kuskokwim River Valley areas. Staying VFR, North Gulf Coast, but increasing low stuff here, starting to show up. I think it'll stay off the coast through tomorrow and staying off the coast. Another VFR morning for the Panhandle and through the afternoon into tomorrow night. Stays VFR, southeast part of the state and even the northern Kuskokwim Valley. Conditions starting to come down now, southwest Kodiak Island with some IFR trying to push northward. IFR along the southwest coast out here in the Bering Sea, scattered around some marginal VFR as well. VFR Norton Sound, southern Seward Peninsula. The Strait though, the St. Lawrence Island IFR. And areas of marginal VFR here along and south of the Brooks Range, but the North Slope, Arctic coast, looking good tomorrow afternoon with hopefully VFR. And for the Tuesday morning outlook, stays nice here on the Arctic coast North Slope, western Brooks Range, and from about, we'll say, Wainwright down to Point Lay and Cape Lisburne, Point Hope, IFR there with IFR pretty likely here, northern Bering Sea, in across the, not only the Yukon Delta, but this has it pushing into the lower Yukon River Valley, and then down along the southwest coast. Some IFR possible into the southwest hills, and IFR, Kodiak Island now pushing up across the Barren Islands into Kamishak Bay, maybe southern Cook Inlet, marginal VFR, maybe as far north as Kenai, but staying VFR, northern Cook Inlet, all of the eastern interior up to the Arctic coast, Prince William Sound, another marginal another VFR day, hopefully, at least to start. We'll see in the afternoon. So marginal VFR starts slipping up into especially western Prince William Sound, IFR northward now, almost to Kenai, back across Kodiak Island, and a good slug of IFR now in over the western interior, thinning out though as you get up along the northwest coast. VFR holding but giving way to this marginal VFR, edging its way eastward, and stays VFR Yakutat on down the southeast coast, and pretty good area of VFR here behind this first batch of moisture coming in. Central eastern Bering Sea and band IFR with the next front. Passes Anatuvik and Adigan, starting out IFR, kind of reverse trend from what you had today, starting out IFR becoming VFR. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, rainy, VFR. Another VFR day for Windy, Isabel, and Mentasta, good VFR. St. Helens visibility is unlimited for Tanita, Portage, as well as Chilkoot and White. Passes. And taking a look at the freezing levels, warm air, tried to push north a little more, but holding about 2,000 feet right along the North Gulf Coast, 2,000 to 4,000 feet Bristol Bay. A little bit cooler here in a little kind of a push behind that system coming up, and then south to north flow here pushing 2,000 to 4,000 feet well north there across the western Bering. And icing with that, moisture flowing northward out here, but up toward the Russian Far East. And another system coming northward brings possible considerable moderate rime icing here to the Alaska Peninsula. And otherwise, just light to very isolated moderate rime icing, possibly getting up toward the Pribilofs, and that be increasing, your threat will be increasing here, southwest Kodiak Island, southern Shelikof Strait. No icing threats over the interior, Gulf of Alaska, or the southeast coast. And from there, taking a look at the jet stream. So this big ridge here over the northeast Pacific Gulf of Alaska, kind of ridging up to the northwest now. Northwest flow, strongest right, catching the eastern Arctic coast, and this trough out, excuse me, over the Bering Sea. That's going to be tracking slowly eastward here, and that'll, as the ridge breaks down or actually flattens, and that'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, and for 9,000 feet tomorrow, pretty light flow, mostly westerly coming over the top of the ridge, but up maybe 30 to 40 knots along the Arctic coast. That translates into some moderate chop there for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast for tomorrow afternoon. And then light isolated moderate chop westward and then southward to St. Lawrence Island.
Welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with the National Weather Service, and joining us today, two more people to talk about the augmented reality sandbox. It's Alana Valaji. She's a University of Alaska Fairbanks mechanical engineering student, helped design and work on the details to make this new type of sandbox there. Thanks for joining us, Alana. Thanks. And Courtney Breest, she's the outreach coordinator for AKwx, which is the experimental program to stimulate competitive research. It's a program funded nationally by the National Science Foundation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Alana, tell us about how you changed and adapted this version of the augmented reality sandbox. It's a really cool tool.
So Gina approached us with 3 goals for this new version of the sandbox. They wanted it to be compact in a light system that could travel around the state. They wanted it to be child-oriented, so we designed the sandbox to have 3 different levels.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. You can have younger children, you can have high school kids. I guess I should say high school teenagers.
Sure.
And then we also designed it to be more marketable, user-friendly, so that this could be seen eventually in classrooms all over the place, all over the state.
Okay. And you had a big hand in this, but this was a team approach, right?
Definitely. It was a really good experience for myself, for George Stevens, who we'll see later.
One of our hand models today. Yeah.
For 2 other members who aren't here today, Cody Klingman and Austin Hunt. And it was just a really good learning experience all around.
Very good. And this is something that is part of your learning experience as well, so you get to check a box in your education.
Yeah,
right?
it's a requirement for seniors of mechanical engineering at University of Alaska Fairbanks.
Very good. Very good. Well, it is a wonderfully inquisitive tool, fun to play with, and I hope to get my hands in the sand here in just a little bit. But it's also part of a bigger program, something that we were talking about a moment ago, AKwx, and that's what Courtney is here to tell us more about. What is AKwx and why do you need a sandbox?
Well, AKwx, as you mentioned, is a national program. We're funded nationally, but we're actually located statewide. We're at UAF, we're at UAA, we're in Southeast at UAS, and she mentioned, taking the sandbox as an educational tool, and that's where I'm an outreach coordinator for the South Central test case.
Okay.
Our focus is on the Kenai watershed, and we are really interested in using these tools like the sandbox to interact with the students down there and get them interested in STEM and also communicate the research findings that we've been having throughout the state.
Okay. And one of those, as George and Eric are kind of changing the contours for us there from UAF to maybe something that resembles a little bit of something more of the Kenai watershed, which is one of your focuses for the study, right? And specifically looking at some of the changes there and how that impacts people and also the salmon.
Yes, it is all of our research is social and environmental.
Okay.
So we have social scientists working hand in hand with our environmental scientists. One of the things we're studying is Upper Russian Lake, and we have a researcher taking sediment cores from that lake. So one of the things we're going to use the sandbox to communicate is how the landscape changed over a long period of time, thousands of years, going from glacier, covered by glacier ice, to being filled with water. And then
that's what they're doing right now.
Exactly. So
live.
So they're moving
cool.
the water around. And then I think they've got some props over there, because we're also going to go a little bit more in depth and explain how the salmon got there.
Okay.
So using
there's
these,
the salmon.
Exactly. Oh, I think there's a few more.
Yeah, we like more salmon in Alaska. More salmon.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really taking the findings from our research grant and just trying to connect with the community and translate it in a really hands-on and exciting way, so people can, interact with us as much as possible.
Well, sure. That makes the learning and the science real and quite literally in your face, rather than just some boring black and white paper that you have to read about. This is something that people can understand better because it's visual and they're touching and feeling and seeing these changes, right?
Yeah, and get them engaged. And then outreach is a huge component, and working with the younger students, and actually even, working with the UAF graduate and engineering students it's a huge part of our grant, and we really enjoy it.
Oh, it is wonderfully exciting. And so, Alana, you were telling us that this is built to travel.
Right.
And this is built to do more things than version 1. where can this type of project go in Alaska, and what can it demonstrate?
I mean, we were hoping to eventually get to villages that were harder to reach, that you couldn't necessarily move a whole fixed instrument to, right? You need something that can pack up, fit in your truck bed. I mean, one of the most attractive parts of this project is that this was going to be something that was used past our graduation point. You know, this is going to be something that lives in the state for years.
Right. Right. Well, it looks like you're well on your way with that. So what are, give me another example. What else can this show us? We've talked about the Kenai River watershed. What's the coolest thing that you've played in the sand with? What's your idea?
Well, I definitely enjoy the props, but we also like kind of building up a giant mound, and if you put some water behind it, you can make a little runway, I guess, and you know, demonstrate the effects of the hydrology by just putting up a dam and letting it all pour right down. And so that could, I think you mentioned it earlier, you could even demonstrate the effects of a tsunami.
Right.
Or something along those lines.
So it's not just topography, but it's also hydrology and coastal surge mapping and some of the coastal changes that we're seeing here in Alaska, and seeing what the smaller changes in the sandbox might do to kind of a real effect of a slosh or a push of water up on the coast. Tsunami inundation mapping, or even glacial dam release, as some has been demonstrated before. So wow, that's just an impressive thing. That it seems like the possibilities are nearly endless with this, and probably even more ideas that are popping up in your head too.
Yeah, as we speak.
Very cool. All right. Well, if folks want to get more information about EPSCoR, you guys are online. You're on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. AKwx, right? EPSCoR, Alaska EPSCoR, that is. And again, you guys are funded by the National Science Foundation, so more to come from that, and a longer-term study there. Thank you, ladies, for joining us today. Congratulations on your hard work there. This is really fun. And for now, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with this edition of Alaska Weather Facts, and I'm going to go play in the sandbox there. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the coastal water forecast here. West-northwest, 15 to 20 knots. Eastern North Gulf Coast, those seas running 5 to 6 feet, or around 6 feet, give or take. Northwest winds, 20 knots on the central coast with 6-foot seas. And then the south coast, small craft advisories, northwest 25, and seas a touch higher at 7 feet. Light variable winds, central southern inside waters again tomorrow with slight seas. And even up here where it was breezier today, Lynn Canal Glacier Bay area, Haines, or on up Lynn Canal there, west at 10 tomorrow with 2-foot seas. And then north 15 knots for Lynn Canal on Tuesday with Stevens Passage north at about 10, and Clarence Strait, wind staying light, northwest 15, seas 2 feet. Northwest 20 on the south coast with 5 to 6 foot seas, and light variable winds at 10 knots for the north coast there with seas 4 to 5 feet or less. Prince William Sound, variable west winds tomorrow at 10 knots with slight seas, west 15. Eastern North Gulf Coast, seas at about 6 feet. West 20 knots for the western North Gulf Coast, and 7-foot seas, west 15 for the Barren Islands, seas 5 feet or so, and north to northeast winds, southern Cook Inlet on into Kamishak Bay at 15 with 3 to 4 foot seas, light northerlies or variable, just about no wind at all for northern Cook Inlet. But that'll kick up to about 15 knots on Tuesday there, and small craft advisories, southern Cook Inlet, north 25 with 6-foot seas, northeast at 30, Kamishak Bay. So pretty good wind increase there, southeast 20 for the Barren Islands, and small craft advisories for the western North Gulf Coast, east at 25. Eastern North Gulf Coast around Middleton Island, southeast 15, and northeast at 10, staying light for Prince William Sound. Now Bristol Bay. Tomorrow's forecast, east 20 knots, small craft advisories, Alaska Peninsula, east winds 25 to 30 knots, and Sitkinak to Castle Cape, this area right here, southeast at 30, east side Kodiak Island and Fognak Island there, south at 20, northeast 15, Shelikof Strait. And for the Tuesday outlook, small craft advisories, east side of Kodiak Island, southwest 25, southwest 20 for Shelikof Strait, Alaska Peninsula, west winds 20 knots, south 20 knots for Bristol Bay and Sitka to Castle Cape in that marine zone there. West winds 25 knots, good for small craft advisories. For the Fox Islands, variable winds 10 to 20 knots tomorrow with 4 to 10 foot seas. Seas, of course, highest on the Pacific side of the islands. Central Aleutians, south to southwest 15 knots, 5 to 8 foot seas. And then south begin to increase here as you head west toward that weakening front that still may provide some minimum gales for the far western Aleutians, west of Kiska, particularly Shimei and Attu. That'd be southwest of 35 with seas possibly reaching 19 feet. And then the next day looks better for gale force winds. We're going southeast 40 to 45 knots for the western Aleutians. Adak and Atka, south 40 knots on Tuesday. And gale warnings almost all the way to Nikolsky, but probably won't quite make it. Otherwise, small craft advisories for the Fox Islands, southwest 25 to 30 knots with 7 to 8 foot seas. And for the southwest coast, lightest winds will be along the Yukon Delta coast here, east 15, southeast 15 for St. Lawrence Island, and variable to south Norton Sound there at 10 knots, and east at 15 for the northern Bering Sea, Pribilofs west at 10, really laying down good, or continuing to stay light with 4 foot seas. And for the outlook on Tuesday, small craft advisories, Pribilofs, St. Matthew Island, southwesterlies at 30 knots. In the case of the Pribilof, seas will be 10 feet, and for St. Matthew Island, 16 feet. First wind advisory, southwest coast, southwest winds, 25 knots. Of course, warmer air coming in on that southwest wind, at least initially. And then southeast 20 knots for Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island. And for the eastern Boulevard Sea Coast tomorrow, back into the gales with the blizzard warning out tonight and tomorrow, coming into effect tonight through tomorrow. West, 30 to 35 knots, lighter 20-knot winds there, central and west side, 15-knot winds, Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson here, with winds coming back up southeast 30 knots in that area on Tuesday. Brisk wind advisory, central Arctic coast, otherwise winds 15 to 20 out of the east along the eastern stretch of the coastline. For tonight, blowing snow, eastern Boulevard Sea Coast and North Slope, improving back to the west. No change southern Alaska or the Panhandle again through tomorrow, and then a change comes in on Tuesday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.